interest rates went up quite a lot. It is starting to come down. Land prices went up. They're starting to come down. So I do see a shift in the last couple of months, probably this year, that there are a lot more people looking to build compared to probably the last 2 years. I always tell clients to compare apples with apples. That's a huge big thing. So you can have a $100,000 difference in quotes, but if the product doesn't match, then that's not comparable. It's like comparing Gucci with Target, for instance. You can't compare those two. So you need to be on a level playing field.
I was actually talking to someone in the local real estate industry about a month ago who built a cost plus custom home, and it ended up going, we'll just forget the actual figure, but 50% over the original estimated amount. And there was nothing that he could do about that. He was fortunate that he was in a position that he could afford that and go ahead with it. But you can only imagine if whatever amount you're going to spend, if you end up having to spend an extra 50%, first of all, you're lucky to be in a position to be able to do that. Second of all, that's going to take money away from a lot of other things like your landscaping and furniture and whatever else you have planned. So there's so much value and benefit to having that fixed price contract.
I think it's really important to lean on someone that you know that's built before, have a chat with them, even ask your builder to speak to a client that has built with that builder before, or a tradesman or supplier to see what they're like.
Tell the client we're on their side as well. There's no sides. We're all on the same team at the end of the day. We want to get the best build for the client as well.
Welcome to the Build Your Legacy podcast with Enzo Homes, discussing all things building, custom homes, and building a legacy for you and your family.
Welcome back to the Build Your Legacy podcast with Enzo Homes. Today I'm joined by Michael Badman, our custom home specialist, and Lee Selkrig, our director. Thanks for coming in today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. So today's podcast topic is about common myths and misconceptions in the building industry. Michael, what are some of the most common misconceptions you come across from clients?
The biggest one at the moment, and probably the first one that I've noticed the last year or so, is about custom designs, how they're not affordable for the everyday person, which is not true. We're getting a lot of people coming in at the moment that are very interested in getting something a little bit more special than just the standard kind of volume build. They're not going, a massive big home or too extravagant, but they want something a little bit more unique. So we're doing a lot of custom plans that, only 20, 25 square homes, something a bit different, unique. And a lot of these are only coming in around that 500 or that under that $500,000 build. A lot of people think that, for a custom build, you have to do something big and spend over $1 million. That's just not true. And a way we keep control over that and keep the pricing down is by designing it in-house as well. So rather than going to an architect, obviously we kind of take the opportunity and sit down with a client and go over the process with them, with our drafts team, and work out a plan that keeps it within budget, but makes it something a little bit different and special as well. And look, our initial deposit for this, this process is only $5,000 down as well, and you get a couple of sales sketches, elevations, and even 3D renders from that as well.
Yeah, perfect. I think another misconception that aligns with that is that to build a custom home, you need an architect, which isn't necessarily the case. And I'll ask Lee a couple of questions in relation to that. First question would be, how do you go about doing a custom home with Enzo Homes? And if someone does happen to already have custom plans designed by an external party, how can we potentially use them to provide the client with a more affordable and economical design than what was originally provided for them?
Yeah, so we offer a free appointment with Michael, our custom home specialist, to sit down and go through your design. If you do bring a custom design from another drafts person or architect for that matter, we will still redraw it just so our trades and even our own staff and whatnot are familiar with all the notes and whatnot on the plan and the method used. And it's another way we can control cost as well, is using repeat methods to do things and not having to do one-off things over and over, which obviously extends time and costs a lot more.
Yeah, I've got one at the moment, a custom build in Highton. So a client went to a draftsperson to get some plans kind of drawn up. Just the floor plan and an elevation. Now that draftsperson has gone back to the client and kind of said, look, come finish it off and pay me an extra $7,000 and I'll do your internals right there. So I said to the clients, look, don't do that. That's what we do. We're going to redraw it anyway. So it's just trying to encourage the clients that they don't need to keep spending money because these draftsperson or architects are not knowing kind of our methods or our window types or door heights and things like that the clients are doing. So it's kind of necessary for the client to sit down with us so we work within the parameters of our suppliers as well.
Yeah, and the building industry as a whole has been a little bit quiet over the past few years for a range of different reasons. Why do you think some clients have been hesitant to build as of late?
I think price. It's probably the number one thing at the moment. Interest rates went up quite a lot. It is starting to come down. Land prices went up. They're starting to come down. So I do see a shift in the last couple of months, probably this year, that there are a lot more people looking to build compared to probably the last 2 years. So it's definitely a change out there as well. You know, as an example, in Torquay, there's an estate there, Stage 7 in Stretton Estate. They priced it. Stage 7, they sold 2 blocks out of 13. It's been like that for the last 2 years. Just recently, they've actually dropped the price, I think up to about $100,000 per block, and they've sold all the blocks within a couple of weeks. So I think that is starting to get people moving again. It's bringing down the price point, and that means the valuation is going to stack up for the bank as well.
Absolutely. And the good thing is as well, building prices have really stabilised since probably about 2023. We had a few years where they were skyrocketing, and because of the fixed price contracts, that created some instability in the industry, which led to some insolvencies, which probably dropped people's confidence in building and the building industry as a whole throughout that period. Can you think of any other reasons that might be holding people back from building at the moment, Lee?
Probably just the uncertainty in the market, as well as, Michael touched on it, the finance constraints at the moment. Banks tend to hold their cards a little closer to their chest, and getting valuation is with land price so high and building costs even higher, that makes it difficult. But it's starting to turn, which is good, and I feel like it's only going to get better from here. So it's going to be an exciting couple of years.
Yeah, I heard this morning listening to a podcast where there was one of the Metricon chief executives on there talking about apparently there were the most building approvals on record in the last month or something like that. So that's really positive and interesting. If there are clients who are ready to build, what are some, I guess, warning signs or red flags that they should look for that might not indicate they're the right builder for them to be building with?
I think the lack of communication, I think straight from the word go, that's what I feel. When you go speak to someone, you want that person to be very transparent and have good communication. So if you're not getting that, I think, have a bit of a second thought about whether you want to go with that builder. A lot of things that people do is they look at the reviews. It's a huge big thing. Read through all the reviews, read the 1-star, 5-star reviews, and make your own judgment call. We get a lot of business through Enzo from referrals. So speaking to people that have built with certain companies, I think that's a huge thing that a lot of people do these days, and that's where probably 50% of our business comes from.
Yeah, and when clients are talking to you, I know a lot of the time they'll be comparing the quotes that you've provided them with the other builders that they're looking at. What are some red flags when it comes to quotes that people might be receiving in terms of maybe there might be a lack of clarity, or there might be some items that haven't been included in the scope of that quote?
I always tell clients to compare apples with apples. That's a huge big thing. So you can have a $100,000 difference in quotes, but if the product doesn't match, then that's not comparable. It's like comparing Gucci with Target, for instance. There's you can't compare those two. So you need to be on a level playing field. That's obviously the very important thing to make sure that you're comparing apples for apples, and make sure there's as many fixed costs in that as possible as well. If it's too many provisional sums or allowances, then they're your kind of red flags right there. They can lock you in, and then they can just keep jacking up the price as well.
Yeah, fair enough. What are some red flags that you'd be looking for if you were looking to build, Lee?
I'll be keeping an eye out on allowances and how detailed the proposal is. I think it's important that the builder spends a lot of time early detailing what the project entails, and so you don't get any surprises down the track. And also just making sure you're not being rushed. It's obviously a big investment. It's emotional time, and if you feel like you're being rushed, just take a deep breath and
it's the biggest investment in someone's life as well, whether they're spending $300,000 or over $1 million. So you definitely don't want to rush a client. It's not a quick sale process. And you just got to be there for the client all the way through.
So let's say I'm a client and I'm keen to build, but I'm a little bit unsure about the process. I'm a little bit worried and concerned. How would you build the confidence in me to go ahead with building?
I've got to find out what you're worried about first of all. Is it pricing? Is that what is scaring you off from building? I suppose, and I suppose initially just building that rapport. We're having a conversation with you, and just providing you with as much information as possible. And I think, like I said, being transparent is the biggest thing that I'm a firm believer on with my clients is here's the information, take your time, read over it, and I'm here for any questions that you have. And if I can't answer the questions, I've got a good team that I can go to and get those questions answered as well.
Yeah, I think you're really good with that, because you say quite often that you have clients that you'll give them an honest upfront price about, and then it's too expensive for them, or they think they can get a bit better deal. They go away, and then they come back a few months later saying, you know what, once we got all the other prices checked out as well, your price was actually pretty good, and you were being honest and upfront with us from the beginning rather than trying to slide you through to the keeper per se, sort of thing. So I think being really honest and transparent from the beginning helps out a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
How do we ensure for our clients that they're not going to run into any cost blowouts along the way, particularly when they are building a custom home?
Number one thing is fixed price contract and minimal provisional sums, like Michael mentioned. There might be a provisional sum around site cost if engineering hasn't been done yet or whatnot, which is understandable. But other than that, as long as you're giving your builder enough information for your specifications, you should be able to get a price. There's no reason why not. So fixed price contract would be the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, making sure the builder, whoever they go through, is making sure they do all the work up front and make sure and that's why you can fix the contract, because everything is confirmed before obviously they sign their build contract as well.
I think for us that's a lot easier because we have an in-house estimating department as well. I think there's a lot of builders out there, particularly in the custom space, where they specialise in the physical building aspect of it. They might be working with an architect as well, and there might not be a lot of clarity between what that actual design is going to cost on site. So they'll run with the cost plus contract, which typically they might apply an additional 20% on whatever the combined cost of the labour and the materials are. But the problem with that is that there's a little clarity at the beginning of the build. And I was actually talking to someone in the local real estate industry about a month ago who built a cost plus custom home, and it ended up going, we'll just forget the actual figure, but 50% over the original estimated amount. And there was nothing that he could do about that. He was fortunate that he was in a position that he could afford that and go ahead with it. But you can only imagine if whatever amount you're going to spend, if you end up having to spend an extra 50%, first of all, you're lucky to be in a position to be able to do that. Second of all, that's going to take money away from a lot of other things like your landscaping and furniture and whatever else you have planned. So there's so much value and benefit to having that fixed price contract, and by having an in-house estimating department, it allows us to achieve that with confidence every single time. So that's really good as well. There is a bit of a narrative that might be going around in the media at the moment that all builders are dodgy. You see those TikTok building inspectors getting around, and like with all news, it's the negative news that gets the eyeballs and the clicks. Even looking in the news at the moment, there's a lot about Israel and Iran on at the moment. Probably 95% plus of countries at the moment aren't at war. They're very peaceful, but you don't hear about them in the news. You hear about the negative things. I think it's similar with the building industry. I think most builders take a lot of pride in what they do, and they are genuine and honest operators and do a really great quality work. But yeah, what's your take on some of those narratives around builders being dodgy, like the used car salesmen of the 90s and 80s?
I'm not a used car salesman, by the way.
I mean, it's more social media than media these days, but I mean, it is what it is. I think it's really important to lean on someone that you know that's built before, have a chat with them, even ask your builder to speak to a client that has built with that builder before, or a tradesman or supplier to see what they're like. It is really hard. It's an individual thing, like Michael said earlier. You got to be able to make your own decision and do your own research and just go with your heart.
If it's too cheap, too good to be true.
Yeah.
That's most of the time, I think. But I think unfortunately there was a lot of builders that did go under, obviously during that COVID period. So that's obviously been around in the media for the last couple of years. I think it's kind of flushed out probably the shit operators, to tell you honest truth. I think those ones are kind of gone. So it's left with the people that are actually doing good business. Not to say that there's still people out there that aren't doing the correct things. And look, that's going to happen in any industry, and it's happening in the building industry still as well.
Yeah, you're 100% correct there. Not all builders are good. Did you want to add on to that, Lee?
Yeah, I was just going to say, a thing that's popular at the moment is clients like to engage their own independent building inspector. And I mean, it does tend to add a little bit of time to your build schedule, but if someone's hesitant to allow that, then that's probably a little bit of a concern. But just keep in mind it does add to the schedule, but it may give you some more surety as well.
I'll give you peace of mind. 100% will give you peace of mind. Look, we have our own private building inspector that does it on behalf of the client, and then 50% of our clients still get their own building inspector on top of that as well. So we're doing 2, 3, 4, 5 checks basically over the build. So you have to allow for that. It just gives the clients kind of peace of mind, and tell the client, look, we're on their side as well. There's no sides. We're all on the same team at the end of the day. We want to get the best build for the client as well.
Yeah, true. And one of the reasons why clients go through that is because they've been burnt in the past, or they know other people have been burnt in the past. A lot of our clients, they're coming to us being their second, third, fourth homes. Have you had clients come to you who have already been burnt by another builder, and how's that situation unfolded?
Yeah, definitely. I think pricing is where a few people have been burnt. It starts off at a certain point and then it kind of escalates. Like we spoke on and touched on before, is making sure you're getting as much pricing kind of upfront and a detailed kind of proposal as soon as you possibly can. Like I said, I'm very honest with my clients. I base my pricing, on current builds that we've done in the last 12 months. Depends on what they want. So I always try and think of, okay, well, what's comparable with what you're building? Okay, well, this is what the cost was for this, and this is what it is per square. So I try and be very upfront and transparent with the person upfront. Say, hey, this is what it is. Our proposals that we put together are 13, 14 pages long. So they're not one page, where some people just kind of give them, here's a one-page quote with a few numbers on it and hope you're happy and then sign your life away, whereas ours is very detailed, and the information we give to the clients in terms of our inclusions, our colour packs and stuff like that is very detailed as well.
Yeah, I think a really exciting story at the moment for us as well is that we have a number of homes that have been nominated for building awards that are coming up later in the year, and 2 of those clients, their original builder for the home that is in the awards collapsed. So they lost whatever stage they're at. Neither of them had actually commenced building the homes yet. So they came to us and they built a different home from scratch. But to go from that story of, going through that horrible process of your builder collapsing to now being in a position where your home is nominated for a building award, I think that's pretty special and pretty cool. I know another situation, this is earlier days with Enzo Homes, and this client's now fortunately built with us a couple of times, but she first came to us because she was going through the process with another builder. She was looking to build, custom home, spending a fair bit of money, and the trouble that she ran into was that they weren't allowing flexibility with her design. So she was wanting to do this and that, and they just weren't allowing it. So maybe Lee, you can touch on that experience working with that client, how they weren't necessarily burned, but it was just a situation that it wasn't working for them. They weren't the right fit with that builder, and how they're able to come to us and get the home that they're after.
Yeah, it's really important for the builder, the drafty or the architect to make sure they're designing for you and your budget rather than a portfolio and what they think looks good. Obviously, the builder's going to step in if something's not buildable or something that, from their experience in the past, doesn't work. They're going to mention that. But I think that's the biggest one is just making sure that you're as upfront as possible with your budget. And as Sam said, we've got an in-house estimator and drafting team who sit in with our construction meetings, and we can feedback all the issues we have on site and all the products and whatnot that we use, so we can design more efficiently and obviously work to the budget a lot closer, because our drafting guys are literally sitting cut within metres away from the estimating team, so they quickly hear about something if it goes over budget or it costs us a bit. There's a bit of banter that goes on, but I think that's something that we're really probably a bit of a niche for us is having that control over meeting the budget.
Yeah, like I said, we're a custom builder, so we allow those changes to be made, whereas a lot of builders don't allow that, where we have that flexibility. If someone wants to change a door location or a wet room, or completely change the floor plan, we've done that with a client recently. They were going to do a double-story build, but we end up changing it to a single-story. So we've made complete changes to people's floor plan. So we're there for what the client wants, not for what is easier to build like some other builders as well.
Yeah, and I think another crucial element when building is trust. As you mentioned earlier, Michael, it's such an enormous financial and emotional investment for clients. And if there isn't trust there with the builder, things can go horribly wrong. You could be in a situation where, for the right reasons, you're not trusting the builder, and it could go into a point where there's a lot of disputes and a lot of delays and things like that. But then also on the flip side, the builder might be doing the right thing, but if you don't trust them, you can see clients might start trying to micromanage the process, and that's not good for either the client or the builder. The client's got their own jobs and family, and they need to get all that stuff done, and they're trying to also be a project manager at the same time, so that's going to chew into their life and cause a lot of emotional strain. And then on the builder's side, they're not going to have the freedom to just go about doing what they do best. So when clients are selecting a builder, how can they find a builder that they trust, and how will they know that they're in the right hands with that builder?
How long's a piece of string? It's very person dependent and client dependent, 100%. Like, it's just some people just don't have trust for anyone or anything, so it's very hard to win those kind of people over sometimes. But like I said, being transparent is the main thing, as well as your track record as well. Like, we've built over 150 homes over a 9-year kind of span, and we've built some smaller homes, some bigger homes. We've done a mixture of things as well. We've won multiple awards. I don't know if you can see all the awards up here. We've won multiple awards, and we've got more to come this year, I reckon, as well. So I think that kind of gives the client a bit of confidence. Gain the trust is like I said, it's always a hard thing, especially with what's happened in the building industry as well. So it is very dependent on the person.
Yeah, I think also with us, you come in and obviously meet the team. We spend a lot of time going through the contract, so upwards of 4 hours. Usually it takes between 2 and 3, depends how many questions you got. But we're very conscious of making sure the client understands exactly what they're signing, and it is a bit tedious, but going through each and every aspect of the contract.
Cool.
Lots of detail.
Heaps of detail.
A lot of people coming into our office as well didn't realise how big we were when they first stepped in here. They kind of like, well, it's quite a big kind of amount of people working in here as well. So I think that does surprise people as well, that we've got a good 12, 13 people that kind of work here at Enzo Homes, that in a range of different positions as well. So we're quite a big business, and I think sometimes that kind of helps the trust side of it as well.
Yeah, cool. Are there any last myths or misconceptions about the industry that you guys want to address and voice whilst we're on here?
Well, what have you heard?
No, I'll just lean on someone that's been through the experience, and just ask as many questions as you like, and even just understand the process. Because sometimes you may think, I haven't heard from the builder, or they had that 2 weeks ago. What are they doing? There's so much documentation that needs to be collated before you even get to a building permit or to site. So yeah, a lot of wheels in motion.
It's not a quick process.
Yeah, so just to make sure, understand, what you're in for, basically.
Yeah, I think we're very detailed, and I have a document that I do send to clients quite early on, our purchase procedure, that kind of outlines the process that goes in terms of what the client needs to do and what we do. So there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scene that people don't see, and things just take time. Like I said, it's in our benefit to get the job to site as quick as possible, but we want to make sure that all the boxes are ticked, so there's no surprises down the track either as well. So again, just being upfront, being transparent, get that document to people, and then talk through about the steps and processes. I've had clients get to site in 4 months, and I've had some clients get to site in 13, 14 months as well. So it's just telling the clients what the process and steps are to get to site is very important.
Good call. And I think a lot of clients have built before, and I think you'd be doing the wrong thing to make an assumption that every builder follows the same process. So that's why it is so important to ask questions. Even builders in the same kind of category, whether they're custom home builders, volume builders, somewhere in between, they're all going to have their own unique processes. So don't make assumptions, because it could have a significant impact on you in terms of what you think the time frame would be, or what the builder requires from you as well, because it's a partnership. The builder needs things from the clients, the client needs things from the builders. It's a two-way relationship. So I think asking a lot of questions, if you are unsure about anything, as well as not making assumptions, so you do get that understanding of the process, can really help.
Yep, and I'll try to tell my clients, I say, look, ask as many questions as you want. If it sounds silly, I don't care, ask it. Because it just gives you a bit of peace of mind if you've asked that silly question. You can also Google it, use ChatGPT. You can kind of use any of those things to kind of help answer your question. But like I said, everyone does things differently as well. So you just need to kind of get it from the horse's mouth to say, okay, well, this is my concern or my question. What's the answer to this?
Exactly. Well, hopefully we've put a few concerns and fears to rest. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam.